Evening, y'all. Let's talk about World T-shirt and Mr. Base in their general future. So with this video, I want to at least try to predict the overall future of things, right, and how they would play out. Now, I don't think what I'm gonna say a lot of it's gonna happen, but I think a majority of it will end up occurring, at least one way or another. So if you haven't known, and I haven't really talked about Mr. Base or World T-shirts in a while, because there's been other things that caught my interest, and also me being sick. I would say that World T-shirt right now it's not heading towards a good direction. The last couple of streams of his have been more or less a disaster. I suppose that he went to rehab, but did he really? Or he's supposed to go to rehab, which is cool. But I doubt that's gonna really happen. And he's been kind of just freaking out in public, which isn't a good sign, especially when it's coming to locales and how they are. And it's just not a good sign. It's just not a good sign of things to come, right? The man is freaking out, and especially in New York City, where if you ever been to New York City, they do not tolerate that kind of mentality, right? They just simply don't. It's just how they are in New York City, where the mentality of tolerance is not as high as you think, and it's very low, especially on the weekends or a weekday, or even on a bad day with some of them. You may as well just pray to God that the worst thing he do to you is send you to the hospital. That's like that's like the best thing you want, you know. And with Josh right now, just losing his mind in public, it doesn't help that Mr. Bays is not a good handler. And I think that's sort of where I think my first predictions are coming from right now, where I think with him freaking out, these are going to be more and more intense. It like to a point where like police are going to get more actively involved, especially with his rampant alcoholism. Heck, right? I remember seeing a post that it was said that John's alcohol level was 0.54, which is ridiculous, right? Now I have a breathalyzer, and I decided one day to test it out. I think I had around like 0.1 or 2, so it wasn't that high. It was like, all right, pretty normal, but it was something I did for fun, right? Where if he's being tested for like 0.5, the man is literally gonna die. Like that's literally where when you start sweating, you're gonna smell the alcohol. Hell, you won't even smell alcohol. You're gonna basically smell it at the not at all. It's gonna smell like gasoline. I've seen people who drink so much, they literally smell like gasoline. Right? It makes sense because alcohol is something that people did use as a fuel source for a while. I still do nowadays. You can actually use alcohol as a fuel source, but because of his rampant alcoholism in the city he lives in, I think another prediction of mine will be there will be a lot more fights, right? Just expect just full on brawl with just random people. And Joss is somebody that is not mentally capable of realizing that. Now you can say that Mr. Bass, for instance, should be able to, handle him right, reel him in, but it's not gonna happen. Um, it's just not gonna happen. And because it's not gonna happen, it's just gonna spur out more. And I think another of my prediction is these spur outs are gonna just constantly attract the wrong people, right? To a point where even if you didn't care for him, you're gonna be more interested in this guy. And the thing about Josh is it's a sad story, right? It's more or less a sad story. It's more resembling of Christian. Right, I know a lot of people think that King Cobra is the next Christian. If anything, World T-shirt is more of a Christian like personality, right? But the difference is that Christian was a little bit self-aware, a little bit, right? Where Josh isn't. He's at a point where he isn't making money. Like some of his streams have been him complaining about not making enough money, him being treated bad as a middle class American, which he really isn't. I mean, he is and isn't. And him like complaining that he deserves to travel. Why do other people get deserve to travel? And it's like no one's saying you don't deserve to travel. But the thing is, dude, like your alcoholism will not be tolerated in other countries. I think one of the things I've learned over the year is how alcohol is viewed across the world. There are parts of the world where if you don't handle your liquor in certain parts of the world, you're basically just uh, let's just say you're not gonna wake up the next day. Let's just say that much. And for someone like him, he doesn't realize that. And I think another thing I would probably also say that with Mr. Bass being head of the home, he doesn't care. Like, he does not care. You think the times where he would stop recording and try to get jobs out of trouble, like, he doesn't care. And I think like Mr. Bass, and I think a lot of my prediction would be, and I think people already know that Mr. Bass is ready to drop Jaws. He's just one step closer to dropping him. It's gonna happen, right? I know it's gonna happen. And like once it happens, it's done, it's over and with, right? And it's a sad turn of events, but the events are just gonna end up happening, right? Like, is there a way to help him? Like, yes, but also there are a lot more harsher than you think. First, let's think about this. He's a rapping alcoholic. He's a spurg. He is very autistic. He doesn't probably know how to live by himself, right? He's relying on other people, right? And the people he is with right now are not the best for him, both physically or mentally. His mindset is that of a rich person, even though he is making money, but he's not making that kind of money, right? And with all that combined, there's not a lot of pathways for him. If anything, you would have to force him to stop doing it, right? You would have to slowly stop the alcoholism, which would be hard because you can't always cold turkey. For those who are extremely alcoholics, you can't stop. You have to do it slowly, or find another source that would at least ease him off, right? You need to be away from Mr. Beige. You would need to be, he would need to stop spending a lot of time on the internet. And I could keep going, and what would need to happen for his future to be better. But ultimately, I don't think these things will happen anytime soon. Even though this video is about a prediction, in the end of the day, this is a shit show that's gonna basically only have in two directions. One, the man just doesn't exist anymore. He's, doesn't wake up the next day, if you know what I'm implying. Or B, he's sent to rehab and gets the proper care. We won't see him for the next couple months, maybe almost a year. Those are only two real options. And as time goes on, those options become more and more clear. And I'm not saying, you could say that there is a third option, but that third option is less likely to happen as time goes on. And that's really all. I hope for the better, but we'll wait and see what happens. Night all.